Join Gator great Shane Matthews every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about your Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions with some of the biggest names in sports. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Or watch us live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Good morning and welcome. You're looking live at PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. We got a good show lined up. We'll have JC. We'll recap the weekend. We'll also have Scott Carter from FloridaGators.com. If you missed it last night, the Chargers win. A lot of crazy stuff happening in the National Football League. Man, anybody can beat anybody on any given day of that league. It's crazy. Good morning, JC. You're on the Titan MR hotline.
Hi.
And you know, also, you're on the Titan MR hotline, but you're also brought to you by Duffield Home Improvements. What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, Bill put my roof up here, and he also did the roof on my other house. Bill Duffield. Yeah, I know him. Know him well. Yep. Well, QB.
Okay, so JC, here's I can't tell you how many texts, and we're getting texts and stuff all over the place here, but everybody goes, we need an offensive coordinator. Okay, let's touch on that real quick. Let's just put you, JC. Do you think the Gators need an offensive coordinator? I'm just going to ask you.
Well, I mean, they have one.
Okay, but my question is, who would you hire?
Yeah, I'd have to think about that because but
the reason I bring that up is because I told somebody this yesterday. The number one offensive coordinator that was paid a lot of money, that was sought after by multiple schools last year, was Garrett Riley from TCU.
Yeah.
And do you know where he went?
Yes, he went to
I'll help you out. He went to Clemson.
Right.
And are they any good on offense right now?
Struggling.
Okay. That's my point. Be careful what you wish for, people. Look, and if you watch the game, I have more concerns about the defense than I do the offense.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think people are forgetting about that. And I know people want to talk about the 4th and 1. I get it. Do I like I don't care for the call, but if it works, nobody's talking. Everybody's talking about what a great call it was. Should you run a quarterback sneak? Probably yes. I had no problem going for it because the 2 previous drives, we didn't slow Georgia down at all. And we weren't going to slow them down.
No, you're right. I mean, I think it was the right decision. I just think it was bad execution and the wrong play call, perhaps.
Well, you got to also give Georgia credit because Georgia, number 2, was very disciplined and shut the play down. Yeah. But that had nothing to do with it. The next time we get a punt blocked. That was worse than missing the 4th and 1.
I mean, special teams has been an issue for how long now? Yeah. I mean, we have a field goal kicker, but really, I think special teams has always been a problem. QB, you're right. I mean, physically up front is an issue. Offensive line is gosh, I mean, he just got killed. 76 got murdered off the edge all day long. And
now you see why Nick Saban let him go, right?
Yeah, he walked. And yeah, you're exactly right. I think Florida fans just have to remember one thing, and that is the expectation level must be reasonable here at this school right now with this program. And I was just hoping the game would be a little bit closer because it just wasn't. And here's what I do want to say, QB, is that, Eugene Wilson to me is our best wide receiver or one of the 2 best. And even though he caught 11 passes, QB, I think his average per catch was under 8 yards or 9 yards.
I thought it was pretty good. I mean, look, here's the bottom line. I'm dead serious about this, and people can take it however they want. Georgia is the premier football program in America. They have surpassed Alabama. You can sit here and debate it all you want. It's a fact. They won the last 2 national titles. Kirby's been there 8 years. He's got 2 national titles. Probably should have had a 3rd, if not for the Hail Mary into the game.
It was a second and 26.
I know. That's what I'm saying. If he stops that, he has 3 national titles, and I think they're going to win it this year running away. The bad part about it for us is I just stated they're not going anywhere. And they've stacked those classes, and they're going to continue getting better because they have the 2 best defensive minds, I think, in all of college football. Kirby and Will Muschamp. They're not going anywhere either because that's their alma mater. That's the problem. If they were coaching at freaking Nebraska, we could, and even they were in our conference, we could feel pretty good. Yeah, NFL team take them away. They ain't going anywhere, people. They ain't going anywhere, and we're a long ways away.
No, Florida and Georgia, it's light years. But what I would say is, let's keep in mind too that yes, Georgia is everything you think they are. They are physical, they are talented, they are well stocked. Their depth is amazing, right? I mean, they put in this kid Carson Beck, replacing Stetson Bennett. They don't miss a beat. But Georgia's schedule is awful. They haven't beaten anybody, and it's not their fault. But their non-conference schedule is a laughing joke, and they haven't been tested yet. And even though you can say, well, they beat Auburn by 7, listen, they could beat Auburn 7 times in a row if they played them, and probably more. But they haven't beaten anybody that's ranked. It's like Michigan. Michigan has not beaten a ranked team this year. Yeah. And yes, they're good. I know, but QB, they haven't been tested. And next year it changes. Everything changes in the SEC next year. So the schedule will get more difficult. They still haven't played Texas A&M, for God's sake.
No, I know. I mean, you can say what you want to say. I agree with that. But now they're getting ready to play Missouri, who's ranked like 16th or 15th next week.
Ole Miss.
They're like an 18-point favorite over Missouri. Then they play Ole Miss at home. And then they got to play Georgia Tech and Tennessee. I think they run them all. Reggie says on Facebook Live, brought to you by Melton Law, Georgia's defense is too fundamentally sound at running corny trick plays, beat them. I disagree with that. The reverse. It was a good call. A couple bad things happened on that call. The execution of the exchange, and then Khalil Jackson was the backside wide receiver that was supposed to crack block. You can't really crack block, but get in the guy's way to allow us to get around the edge. Nobody did any of that. So I have no problem with that play call. If they would have hit us in the backfield, been a different story. But when teams pursue as hard as Georgia does, and they're very disciplined, but they can run, reverses are very good against that. So, again, everyone wants to talk about the offense, and I get it. But we didn't stop them at all. And there were dudes running wide open, and there was nobody even touching Carson Beck. Let's not forget about that.
That's right. I mean, they up front are very pedestrian, Florida, and maybe even worse than that. And I expected more. But see, again, you have to get this expectation level correct. Now, you've been setting everybody up for about 3 months, QB, on the 8-win scenario, and it's still possible. But do you really think it's realistic? And I don't know if it is. After that,
well, I don't know if it is either, because I thought we'd be. I still think we're really good at the skill players on offense. We have trouble blocking. There's no question about that. You know, when I watch practice in the summer, I don't watch those guys because you can't tell anything until you actually play a game if they can block or not.
Right.
But look, I don't think Arkansas is very good. They're coming here they've changed offensive coordinators, fired the other guy in a week and a half. I don't know if that's going to help. If Rocket Sanders plays, that won't be good for us. But look, I was on the field before the game when the teams get there, you know, and they're in their suits and they walk around the field.
Yeah.
It's still to this day, their team looks different than our team, even in their coat and tie.
Yeah.
They look different. They look different. There's no excuses. But for people to think that the 4th and 1 play had any outcome on that game has no idea of watching football, because they were going to do whatever they wanted to do with us on offense. Because we didn't really slow them down at all. They rushed the football at time whenever they wanted to do it. They threw it. Guys were open. We busting coverages, running into each other. Got no pressure on the quarterback.
They kicked Florida's ass. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's no other way to put it.
That's
was
right.
it a great first drive? Absolutely, it was.
It was. And you know, Etienne, though, here's the issue I think folks are having. He touched the ball 7 times rushing.
Okay. I'm glad you brought that up. I'm going to touch on it. Is Etienne a really good player with the ball in his hand? Absolutely.
Yes.
JC, go watch him pass protect.
Yeah.
It is a disaster.
He can't. I know.
They ran right over his ass every time.
Our friend, yours and my friend who came over to watch the game with me, said the exact same thing. My God, there's nobody protecting. And this kid.
No, but what I'm saying is, you know, when you do have good protection and they bring the Mike backer or the outside backer, that's the running back's responsibility. and you do get finally good protection, he gets run over right in the quarterback's
That's right.
face. That's why I saw one time he got run over in a pass play, and they immediately sent Montreal in. So, look, I like them both. I like them both. So, we're not on their level. I mean, sometimes you have to just sit back and say they're way better than we are, and they are.
And it's been 5 years now. I mean, I don't know. I
do think the biggest play in the game, and it didn't really matter because at that time it was 17-7, but it was the block punt.
Yeah.
So,
and it's just a breakdown, and it was over. They turned the thing off. I guess you've got a team coming in that's struggling as well.
You just got to win it. You get bowl eligible and move on from there.
Right. You got a chance to win 6. For sure. And then, Missouri's going to be a tough game. LSU is going to be a very difficult game. And of course, Florida State's going to be a very difficult.
Here's the thing too, is in the preseason, I thought we would be better on the interior on both sides of the ball because we were bigger.
Right.
But just because you're bigger doesn't mean you're better. Okay.
No.
And everybody talks about the weight program. Okay. There's a difference from being weight room strong and football field strong. There's a huge difference in that.
Yeah.
And we got to get football field strong people. That's what we need. JC, let's get to a bunch of these texts real quick.
All right. Fire away.
This is from I'm not sure who this is from, but he says, Can you give me a yay or nay to my thoughts below, please? Georgia is dadgum good. All this not as good as this, that, and the other is just flat wrong. They're damn good.
Yes.
That's my yay on that. On 4th inches, run it. Cute stuff doesn't work. Graham's 220 and tough enough to get 8 inches with the pusher from behind. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Like I said, they tried to get a big play on a 4th down, get them off. Again, it didn't work. If it works, y'all are praising Billy Napier. Strength and conditioning, still a ways to go. That I can't comment on. I'm not a big strength and conditioning guy, never was. I think we run the same type of programs. They all do all the same lifts. Again, weight room strong is different than football strong. No two ways about it. Billy got to get a left tackle in the portal. I think you mean right tackle. High school kids don't usually step up in the O-line, let alone left tackle. To win bigger next year, you need to get big year in the portal. Recruiting classes take a few years. I'll tell Doc at Peachland Dental, y'all said hey to him this week. So I guess he's going to get his teeth cleaned.
Yeah. Well, Joe will take care of it, man. He's a great guy, Joe. Listen, you know what, QB, this reminds me eerily of, and this is for the people that are my age and who grew up here. This is the 1970s Gators, man. This is a 7-win type team and very just,
JC,
that's what they are.
So this is what I've been doing.
And
I'm not studying, but I've been thinking about football programs all around America. And like I said, I didn't become a Gator until 1988.
Right.
But correct me if I'm wrong. We've talked about this on this show.
Okay.
The Gators would have, whether it's in the 60s, the 70s, or in the 80s, they'd have a couple of years where they'd win 8 or 9 games.
Yeah.
The majority of the time, it was 6, 7 wins. Is that correct?
It's 100%.
Okay. Then this dude that won the Heisman Trophy came here and changed everybody's thought process of what the program should be. And I agree. He's a Hall of Fame coach.
Correct.
Hall of Fame coach. He leaves. We hire Ron Zupp. Great recruiter. We don't win. Fired. You bring in Urban Meyer, who uses great recruits, who's won everywhere he's been. Hall of Fame coach.
Yes.
Then you have Muschamp, McElwain, Mullen, and now we're on Billy.
Yeah.
So if you go back and you look at Alabama's run too, it's the same. It's Bear, Gene Stallings, Saban. You look at the Georgia Bulldogs. It's Dooley, Mark Richt. Now, Mark Richt, did he ever win an SEC? But he won a bunch of games. He used to win 10. And then it was now what Kirby's built, a dynasty. So I'm just saying, they don't just fall off trees and you win games.
Yeah, no, and but you never knew who Doug Dickey was, and he was a coach that came from Tennessee, led the Gators in the 70s, was a big name, came in.
What was the best record he had?
I think the most they won was 8, maybe.
Okay,
and that's when they played 11 games. So I don't know, maybe the most he won was 8, but it was never more than. It never felt like it was more than that. Maybe it was 1 year or two. Buddy Martin could tell you, Pat Dooley for sure, but I just remember that there are just teams you're just never going to beat. Then there were teams that you were hoping you could beat, and then there were teams you would always beat, and that was 7 wins a year. And this coach just reminds me of Doug Dickey. He's just there's nothing that's just jumping out at me right yet. And I know, but think about it, QB. He's been here for a year and a half now. He won 6 last year. He's got 5 now. He's 11-10. That's what his record is.
And I believe I read somewhere Kirby did not take down Nick Saban until his 5th or 6th year.
Right. No, it took a while, and he had to build Georgia up. But Kirby had that background of national championships because he was Nick's DC for 10 years or 9 years. So he won natties, and he had defenses at Alabama that are all in the NFL right now. You know this. So I don't know what it's going to take for Billy Napier. Maybe it's recruiting, maybe it's not. But just remember, these recruits who said they're going to come to games, but haven't signed anything yet.
Yeah, but they're coming. They're coming.
Okay, well then, if they're coming,
because the way it works now, they're coming.
Well, yeah, but you're right. The transfer portal and the NIL has changed the way you can build your team, and it's allowed you to build teams a lot faster. We're not in this 3-4 year time horizon where you can recruit your way into championships again. Although you can do that, it's a lot quicker now with the NIL and with the transfer portal.
Yeah, Michael on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing. Saying, Shane, do you agree with the 2 offensive line coaches? I do not. I don't know why you need 2 offensive line coaches. Stacy says we were running the ball just fine on those 2 first drives. And we were running okay. We were throwing it mostly. But then Napier got too cute. I think we need an actual offensive coordinator. Again, my question to you would be, who would you want as your offensive coordinator? Because the number 1 offensive coordinator everybody wanted last year is at Clemson now, and they have struggled mightily. So, look, again, I'm more concerned about the defense than I am the offense.
Yeah, it's soft, man. They're just you've been harping about the defense for 2 years now, QB.
It's probably been longer than that, but and then again, right here, Mo Gator says Rick left Kirby great talent and a good situation. Clown show that left Billy a dumpster fire. It's true. Mark Rick had won 9 or 10 games every year, and they fired him. I mean, he walked into a great situation.
Yeah, no, they couldn't get over the hump.
So Reggie wants to hire Jeff Scott as the offense coordinator. You know who he is?
No.
Okay, he was an assistant at Clemson under Dabo. He was the most recent head coach at South Florida.
I do know who he is. I mean,
Brad Scott's son. But I mean,
yeah. Well, Billy's going to do something. He's going to do something. 11-10 ain't cutting it. If he wins the next 11 and loses the next 10, then he'll be 22-20. That's not what Florida wants. It feels like Texas A&M around here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but again, I go back to my small window of success as Florida football. We've been playing football at JC, I think, for 123 years.
Yeah.
We've only won, is it 6 or 8 or 7 national SEC titles?
Yeah, you guys were the first one.
Well, they all came in that time span.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying, 1966 HBC beer available at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, Gator Games in the Swamp, and select retail outlets. Crisp American Lager 1966 HBC beer. I got so many texts and comments. We appreciate y'all joining. I'll try to read some here and there.
Yeah, QB, when you're playing a team as good as Georgia, you got to get the ball to your best players, and I just don't.
We did do that.
Well, Etienne only ran 7 times. I mean, I know you're talking about
JC,
but he's their best player.
He did, but I like I said, I know people think I'm crazy, but we did what we could do from a physicality standpoint, the best we could on offense. That's all I can say. I don't know what else we could have, because we could not drop back and throw.
Yeah, that's true. No,
we could not block those guys. No, we cannot block them.
They came like, it was that 9. It was like the 86 Giants or the 85 Bears. They just kept coming.
Okay, so everybody on here knows more than I do. Obviously, Jeff Scott is coming. It has been told. Okay, I can promise you, next year, people will be raising hell about Jeff Scott.
Why? Why will they be raising hell, QB? Maybe he'll be
good. Because he's probably he's probably going to run a reverse that doesn't work or whatever.
QB, they just want to see something work once in a while. That's all. I mean,
if we have a good exchange, I mean, we've had, dude, that first series, we had some good design plays. I ain't gonna lie.
Unbelievable. They took shots. I was jumping around this house. It was 7-0. I'm thinking, we're in here. These guys are hitting the face just like that. Attack. And well, we saw what happened after that. So Georgia's going to play Mississippi this week. And
no, they're not. They're playing Missouri.
Oh, it isn't? Okay, so yeah. I thought it was Mississippi.
Yeah, like an 18-point favorite.
They're playing right. So their next two games are Mississippi and Missouri.
All right. So Shane on Facebook Live
says, see what kind of offense.
He says same old crap. If we had an offensive coordinator, if we see again,
the players.
Can I ask Shane this? Did you think? Okay. Did you think we ever slowed down the Georgia offense? I'm just asking. Can somebody please tell me if we did or not?
I do not.
The game I watched, we didn't.
I do not think that at all. I mean, Lad McConkey's still wide open. He's running around in my backyard, wide open. Okay, Lad McConkey. Who the hell is that? I mean, really?
Oh, he's a very good football player.
I know who he is. I know. I was being facetious. I mean, he's a very good player, but is he good enough to beat you by himself? He could have, and he did, and he was open all day long. QB all day long. I think it'll be interesting to see what these two very good offenses that Missouri and Mississippi have throw at Georgia and see what those games are like. What do you think? You think it'll be the same thing? I think it'll be close with those two. I don't know.
Well, they may. I don't think it'll be close. I think Georgia's way too physical for those two teams, dude. It's a different animal.
Well,
different animal.
But don't you think those teams will have a little bit more success offensively?
Well, they might. They might not. I mean, time will tell. I mean, if they can block a little bit better than we block, they'll have a little success. But but anyway, let's read some of these texts here real quick.
Okay.
Tell JC when you are playing catch up, you can't run the ball. Meaning when we were down by 29 points or whatever it was.
No, I wasn't. Well, no, I get it. That's true. He's right. I mean, once the game was out of control, it was out of control.
Okay, this baffles me. I don't know who this is. It says the kid coming in next year can sling the ball all over the field. Protect him, and things will change. He can take off and run too.
Graham Mertz can throw it all over the damn
He can throw it all over the field. I'm telling you,
all over.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're right, QB. Defensively, these guys have got to get better, man. It's just been 2 years of it's just been soft, and this was not. There was a time when Florida's defense was feared. I'll never forget when Urban was here and that secondary with Hayden and Major Wright and players like that. They were headhunters and they destroyed people. Brandon Spikes. Where are those guys? Why can't Florida find headhunters on defense? You know, animals that go after you and want to devour you. Kind of like what we saw in the white uniforms the other day. That kind of thing is what I'm missing here in Florida.
Yeah. Hunt here on the Titan Mar text line says, Shane, can you explain why we got such bad spots on the play that should have been a first down conversion and the play that should have been a touchdown late in the game? Was I missing something? The one, it's unfortunate it happened right at the end of the quarter. I think it was Khalil Jackson caught the slant, was just barely short. Apparently, Kirby lobbied for the spot. The other touchdown, it was not a touchdown. I can't remember who it was. It was short. All right, this one is good morning. Georgia beat us up in every phase of the game Saturday. Maybe we can get on the level with some good recruiting class. I still trust Napier can get us there. Thanks, Daryl. I mean, they're not going anywhere. That's what I try to tell people. Tommy in Gainesville says, if you believe in momentum and morale, why would you tell your offensive line you don't believe in them with 1 yard on one play? That fourth down cost us any momentum and gave it all to Georgia. Had to affect the lineman's morale as well. I was all going for it, but straight ahead right at them. Look, I get that. Did it change the momentum a little bit? But if you watched the damn football game and you saw what was happening before that, we had to go for it.
Yes,
now, do you want to run a quarterback sneak? Yes, right. But again, if ETN takes that snap and either the Georgia defensive end outside linebacker does not do his responsibility and crashes, he runs for it with a huge player. He hits Pearsall. Everybody's praising the call. That's the great thing about sports. Everybody can second guess this, that, and the other.
But QB, think about this. The one play that's been talked about more than anything in the last month has been a play designed in Philadelphia called the brotherly shove. You're telling me that you can't get an inch and a half?
Well, no, we can because we ran the quarterback sneak 2 other times in the game, one for a touchdown. Hey, look, he was trying. We were losing 10-7. I understand it from a play calling standpoint. let's do something to try to trick them because.
How about just get 4 more downs? How about that?
Right. But what if you score a touchdown off of it, JC?
I mean,
I'm just saying it's easy. It is easy to second guess it. I get it. Am I happy with the result? No. But that had nothing to do with the outcome of this football game. Zero.
Right. But it was a big play in the game, and it did.
Well, the biggest play to me that turned the whole tide
was the punt.
We were still going to lose was the damn block punt.
Block punt, yeah. And really, that Georgia, it's this Carson Beck from Jacksonville, by the way, is just you insert this guy and boom.
Well, he was committed here, and then
he had his best game.
Anthony committed here, and then he went there. JB, I agree with this JB here on Facebook Live. He says any other defense would have given up a huge play on that 4th down call. Georgia was so disciplined on that play. Agree 100%.
Okay, I'm just saying that, and that's fine. That's all well and good, but let's get 4 more downs. That's all. We're not trying to score a touchdown on that play, QB. We're just trying to keep the ball from Georgia. And
here's a good question. Here's a good question from Mike.
Shouldn't be a big deal.
JC, answer this and I'll answer it. He says, who had the worst roster in their first year? Saban, Smart, Urban, Spurrier, or Billy?
I'm saying Billy for sure. Saban's wasn't much better.
Not even close.
Yeah, and Saban's wasn't much better, to tell you the truth.
He only won 1 more game than Billy, I think, right?
They went 7-6 that year, yes. But then the difference came in 2008 when they went 12-0. So that's the thing, QB, is that Saban didn't have the transfer portal or the NIL. Neither did Kirby, neither did Urban, neither did a lot of these guys. They got it now. So it's time. You can't get, it shouldn't take you 3, 4, 5 years. It just should not in today's world. I'm sorry. Look at Oklahoma. Look at TCU the year before. Look at all these.
Hang on. Whoa.
What? NIL.
Oklahoma had freaking a run with Bob Stoops and Lincoln Riley.
No. I'm saying, listen, dude, they were 6-7 last year or 7.
Right. Yeah, but they got their quarterback back in their system. He was out the whole year.
You're telling me they're not better on defense this year? I think they are. And I
don't know. Ask Kansas.
Well, that's true.
Philip from Enterprise, Alabama says sometimes the man lined up across from you is just better. No question. A lot better.
Great. We have established that Georgia is better than Florida in the sport of football. We have that. That has already been determined. We know this. I'm saying, fans, get your expectation levels to where you don't get so disappointed anymore. What Coach Spur used to say, QB used to say, it's not your fault for stinking. It's my fault for putting you in. Well, I bought into Florida. I picked the guys to win the game. What an idiot I look like right now, right? I bought.
Well, Eric Zier told me before. Eric Zier told me before the game, he's like, man, he goes, I'm scared to death. Y'all are going to beat us today because we've not looked good all year long.
Exactly.
So, but they you know what they did is
turn the switch off.
Flip the switch.
Turn the switch. That's
right. All right, JC, real quick, let's talk a little NFL yesterday.
Okay.
I saw this stat. I'm going to give it to you. You tell me if you think you know who these 2 NFL quarterbacks are.
All right.
Listen to these stats.
I'm listening.
16 touchdowns, 4 interceptions.
Yep.
15 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. They both play in the AFC West.
Wow. How about Patrick Mahomes and Russell Wilson?
Russell Wilson has more touchdown passes and fewer interceptions than Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, for Denver. Well, look, isn't it amazing that all of a sudden his fortunes have changed with a guy named Sean Payton on the sideline? Now, Nathaniel Hackett is supposed to be a great offensive mind. He ain't no Sean Payton. And Denver, you got to give the Broncos credit. They stuck it to the Chiefs, and that's the NFL, isn't it, QB? I mean, you know this. You've been there. You've seen it. These guys are all paid professionals. Sometimes it just doesn't matter what helmet they're wearing. They're all great players. They're the best in the world. I feel terrible for Minnesota that Kirk Cousins blew his foot out, and I feel terrible for the Vikings because they were going to push Detroit in that division, I think. But I don't see that happening without Kirk Cousins, and he's now gone. And I'm not surprised at all that Dallas whooped up on my poor Rams because Dallas had a week off and the Rams played something like 8 straight weeks. That's tough. And, injuries are such a factor in the NFL, QB, as you know. And you got to hand it to Will Levis. He's been waiting his turn. Ryan Tannehill's out the door. You're going to see Will Levis with the Tennessee Titans now for the rest of the year. I have no doubt about that. 4 touchdown passes in his debut. The Tennessee Titans are back. They're back, and they're going to.
Why NFL teams ever get rid of their real uniform blows my mind. The Seahawks need to go back to that uniform. The Titans need to wear that uniform and just change the oil rig.
Yes.
Yeah. I just don't understand why these teams do that.
What did you think about Will Levis though in his debut?
I've always thought Will Levis was pretty good, by the way.
Pretty impressive. And then you can see how banged up the 49ers are. They don't lose by 2 touchdowns to Cincinnati ever, and they are really banged up. And they're
banged up, and they got my Super Bowl pick. Bengals are starting to play good ball now because
here come the Bengals. Yeah, here come the Bengals. The Ravens got to win. They've got a good record, but I got to say that I think the biggest impression that was made on me yesterday was Denver's resounding win over Kansas City. I mean, blew them out. And Tennessee with that new quarterback at Will Levis is going to make them a much better team. Mike Vrabel's a smart guy. He's going to stick with what works. And Tannehill was not working. This kid, I think Levis is the answer. We'll see, but I think that's the answer. So, that's where we're at. The NFL is so tough to pick. It's so, but hey, our Jags are 6-2 QB. There's not many 6-2 teams out there right now. And they got a game on Kansas City yesterday. So they picked up a game on Kansas City. That's important. The Jags could be playing for home field in the AFC if they keep this up. They get a week off too coming up, so they're going to heal up.
They're playing very, very good. So, all right, JC, we're going to get to Scott Carter. See if he can give us any words of wisdom this morning, and we'll talk to you on Wednesday. Go practice at the range, JC. You can go hit some balls.
Go Rangers!
Oh, speaking of that, tonight, Game 3.
Game 3 in Arizona. Loved. Oh, by the way, I went to that game in the Chase Field in Phoenix. Unbelievable facility. Great time. Diamondbacks, Phillies. It was great. But I'm rooting for the Texas Rangers. Thanks, QB. See you Wednesday.
That's JC. Join us on the Titan Number Hotline. Going to take a quick timeout. We'll come back. We'll be joined by senior writer Scott Carter from FloridaGators.com. We want to take this moment to thank our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law attorneys of the Florida Gators. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Campus USA, put some star power to work in your financial life with Campus USA Credit Union. Dave & Buster's, eat, drink, play, watch. Duffield Home Improvements for your window, siding, and roofing needs. Radware, your local provider of promotional products, uniforms, and apparel. Our gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Silverback Concrete, Ruse Ogre State Farm Insurance, Radware, F45, Quality Plumbing. Our touchdown sponsors are Adams Ribs, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteak, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Silver Cube Billiards and Sports Bar. If you're interested in promoting your business on the show, call Freddie at 352-284-3733. If you like what we're doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Thursday, November the 16th, come celebrate the release of our Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, Lugo's Risky Rum. This exclusive release features a special spread of our farm-to-table food, rum cocktails, raffles, and a meet and greet with me. Each ticket includes a bottle of Spurrier's Single Barrel Select Risky Rum. And I'll sign the bottle if you'd like. So get your ticket before they sell out at spurriers.com.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Silverback Concrete's a family-led team of heavy concrete specialists that build commercial structure of unrivaled quality. Silverback Concrete, you stand on it, we stand by it. We're going to head to the Titan Number Hotline now, and we are joined, who's also courtesy of Duffield Home Improvements. That would be Scott Carter from FloridaGators.com. How you doing, my man?
All right, I like that, man. Courtesy of somebody. I don't know if
I mean, we got all kinds of people throwing stuff at us. Let's start here, Scott, because we got a lot to talk about. If I had a nickel for everybody talking about an offensive coordinator just this morning,
Yeah.
I could quit the podcast and go to an island. But I try to remind people we can't stop anybody.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword there. I mean, you know, I remember I watched the game yesterday, replay because you miss a lot, Shane, live,
Mm-hmm.
at least I do. And I sent out a tweet afterward with my only real takeaway from that game. And it's just, it just reminded me of something that gets lost sometimes because we all get kind of consumed by the shiny toys and we always forget about the offensive and defensive lines. And it just, until the Gators get better on those front lines, until they get that elite talent that we haven't seen in a while, we're going to continue to have conversations like this where it's up and down. I mean, I know the offense scored 41 points against South Carolina, and hey, they finally have figured some things out. And then, of course, struggled against Georgia after that quick start. But it all goes back, if you just understand what's really going on and watch it, it all goes back to what's happening up front. I mean, the Gators got beat up on both sides, of the ball. And it's kind of like, there's the best quote I ever heard about it was from Mike Tice, the former NFL guy. He said one time about the offensive line, it's really the engine of the offense, man. You can have the nicest paint job and tinted windows and spinners and rims. If the engine's not working, nothing else matters. You got a crap car. And that's kind of where, not that the offense is crap, the offense has actually done some good things. But when you play against a team like Georgia, and clearly they are better up front and more physical in the trenches, you're going to lose the game 95% of the time. That's just the reality.
It is, and I'm guilty of looking at the pretty car as well because
Well,
that's what got me excited in the summer of our skill guy. I still think we have phenomenal skill guys right now on offense,
yeah.
but we had no chance. And a lot of people want to talk about the 4th-and-1. I try to tell them I had no problem with it. Do I want to run a quarterback sneak? Yes, but if Georgia's not as disciplined and as well coached as they are, that damn number 2. I think his name is Small Mundane or something like that.
Done.
He made an unbelievable play. If he's not there, ETN runs for it. He could still be running. I didn't have a problem with it. I don't think that had anything to do with the outcome of the football game. Did it change the momentum a little bit? Yes, but Georgia, we had not stopped Georgia the previous 2 drives. We had to keep the ball and try to score. What did Billy say after the game about that?
He stood by the call, as most coaches are. He was kind of he said at that point he felt there was a certain score they were going to have to get to, so he insinuated that he knew they were going to have to score a lot of points. It's kind of the same mentality that he had to have at South Carolina. You can't get too conservative because, again, the defense wasn't stopping anybody, Shane. Georgia did go up and down the field. I look at that call. I'm kind of like you in terms of I did not mind the decision at all. I understood the decision, even though it was a gamble. You also got to remember it was like they had a first down, on that catch by Jackson. Then suddenly they review it and they get kind of a questionable spot. So now you got to go for it or punt and kill the momentum that you think you'd had. So I get the part going for it. I'm not going to sit here and say I love the play call, but at the same time, if it works, it's a genius call. It's beautiful, and fans are excited. That's just the nature of the coach. I mean, you're going to be questioned when something like that doesn't go wrong. Again, the decision to me was fine, but yeah, Georgia, you got to give them credit on that play. They did blow it up. I mean, the guy was in there as right when ETN got the ball, which you don't see that very often. So he made the great play. But that was certainly, I think, I'm like you, it didn't determine the outcome of the game, but it didn't help any at the moment,
No, it didn't. And Chris says it wasn't the decision; it was the damn play call. See, I disagree. If he makes it, Cliff, you're excited about it. That's the thing about play calling. People are going to love it. People are going to hate it. That's just part of the business. This is a very long text from George in New Orleans. I'm going to kind of paraphrase it here because I mentioned earlier with JC that because everybody's been complaining about our weight room, our workout. I was like, look, y'all talking to the wrong person. I don't get into that stuff, but everybody in America does the same workouts and the same lifts. There's a difference between strength in the weight room and strength on the football field. There's a huge difference. You know what I'm talking about, Scott?
Yeah, yeah.
And Georgia has maybe both. But basically, he's talking about, we've added these portal guys on the offensive line. We brought in portal guys from the defensive line. Why can't we be like Georgia? Well, Georgia's guys are just different people. When I saw them walking around in their suits before the game on the field, I was like, holy moly. So long story short, we just got to find those kind of guys.
Yeah, it's kind of I've been through this now, Shane, for a few times, unfortunately, with coaching change, and every time that things start maybe to be critical, overly critical, it's like the weight staff and the weight room is always brought up. I remember that under Jeff Dillman, who was Muschamp's guy. I certainly remember that under Mike Kent, McElwain's guy. There's probably, I think, more validity to it at that point. And then, of course, I thought Nick was great with Mullen. Nick Savage, he seemed to be the most popular weight guy the Gators have had in a while. But so I don't know all the X's and O's there in terms of what they do. I just know that that's always a common complaint. But I totally agree with you in terms of, it doesn't take any. All you need is just to look closely. I mean, it's like Florida, they just haven't had those big bodies like Georgia, Alabama, and Ohio State. It's at times Clemson or, some of the top 4 or 5 programs in recent years. And in the SEC, since your main competition is Georgia and Alabama to get to where you really want to go, you have to have that kind of player. And I mean, I remember, as you do, the Gators have certainly had plenty of those guys over the years. But it does seem like they haven't had them in recent years. And you've got to get a couple of those guys. And of course, where does that start? That starts on the recruiting trail. So that's where Billy Napier is making the most noise right now. So hopefully some of these guys coming in are that kind of player. But again, and I know it's maybe a cliche or a boring take, and I'm not venting here as much as some people might want, but I watched the whole game yesterday, and I kept looking at the offensive and defensive lines, and that just told me all I needed to know, man. I'll give you a great example. Florida went to that trick, what was kind of a trick play on that 4th and 1. They didn't just pound it up there. Georgia on that 4th and 2 from the goal line, they just hand the ball at the middle and score an easy touchdown. I mean, that's how teams that are built up front play.
Yep, for sure. Ted wants to know on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon Law. QB, how long do they practice trick plays and end arounds? Are they practice from the beginning of the year? Why is the execution bad? You practice your trick plays all year long. We've run, I guess, 3 trick plays, if you want to call the 4th down one a trick play. That I give credit to the Georgia Bulldogs for stopping that, because they were disciplined and stayed home. One of our callers or listeners said if that was any other team, it would have been a big play. I agree. We ran a trick play, a double pass that Khalil Jackson threw an interception. It was wide ass open. He just floated it. That's just a bad throw. And then we ran the reverse. It was just a bad exchange. I mean, it happens, but you do practice a lot. It's not like they just draw it up in the dirt and go practice a trick play the day of the game. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Gosh, where is that text on YouTube that I wanted to read to you? I'll have to find it. But Scott, so again, here it is right here. Somebody said they heard that there was friction between Armstrong and some of the people in the building. What do you know about that? I have no idea. Scott, do you know anything?
I mean, that would be news to me. I mean, I really don't know. That's the first time I've heard that. I'm over there some. I mean, I certainly haven't seen anything, but of course I'm not over there all the time. But I just think you hear stuff like that at times when you lose a big game. Mm-hmm. And, Armstrong, I think he's still at a point in his career where he's still developing his kind of system and style. But again, I'm not, the defense hasn't played great, but in the last couple of games, but also they don't have the kind of players at certain positions over there that they need either. So this is just where it is, where the program is. And none of this is really a surprise or so to me. I mean, I kind of expected a season like this. You were just reminded of it when they lose to Georgia for the 3rd consecutive year in a kind of a lopsided game.
Yeah, Cliff said trick plays rarely work and kill momentum. I disagree with that. They worked a lot. on a lot of teams that I've been on and coached as well. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. This is a Zach on YouTube brought to you by Quad Plumbing says, is it taught at UGA for the O lineman to go blow up a DB at the end of plays? I think you're referring to the one that was all over Twitter. That was a wide receiver screen. He was doing what he's supposed to do, go kick that DB out so the wide receiver can cut back inside. And I don't know who it was but our guy got blown up. I don't know if you saw that, Scott.
That was one of the plays maybe I did miss in my replay, Shane.
Well, it's on Twitter, and I mean, when I tell you he got decleated, he got decleated. But again, it's a 185-pound guy going against a 330-pounder. It was pretty
impressive. Those collisions don't usually go well for the smaller guy. But that Georgia, they were physical, and that 4th and 1 play we're talking about, I'm a little bit old school where I would love to have the confidence in my O line and just to go out there and smash that one for a yard and move on. But again, I just go. We've seen it before that play. We've seen it this year in some tough, close calls where I don't think they got the bodies up there to necessarily play that kind of smash mouth ball.
Yeah, Scott, I mentioned the bad thing about the Gators is we're in the East, we're in the SEC. And Georgia ain't going anywhere. I said earlier, it'd be nice if Kirby was coaching Nebraska or somewhere where he may go to the NFL, but he's coaching his alma mater. He's got his best friend who played there.
Yeah.
The 2 best defensive minds in football.
Yeah.
And they've been stacking top recruiting classes on one another. I'm afraid he's going to end up being the all-time he's going to break all of Saban's records. I got a feeling. I'm hoping I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But he's got 2 natties in 8 years, should have 3, probably going to get another one this year. We got to do something in a hurry to try to get on a level playing field if we can.
Yeah. I guess I know now what it was like to be a Georgia fan in the 1990s. That's kind of how Florida fans feel now, with what they have going up in Athens, because, the Gators dominated with Spurrier and then again with Meyer. And now it feels like it's really been flipped. And you're right. Kirby Smart is a great coach. He's got a great program going. I mean, Will Muschamp, I was watching him the other day. He was over there, just looked like the guy who was here in terms of his emotional connection to the game. You could tell he's enjoying what he's doing. They're both great coaches in terms of defense, and they've got a veteran offensive quarterback. So yeah, they're getting the top talent. It's going to be a challenge, but it's not impossible. We all know this thing can turn so quickly. And that's what is good about a program like Florida. If you can get one of these wins and win a couple on the recruiting trail that maybe we're going somewhere else with a couple of those big studs, it's suddenly you can turn this thing fast. But you have to get closer than 22 points last year, 23 points this year. It feels like there's a lot of room right there, but I do like where the recruiting is going. I think it's going to be the best Florida class, quite frankly, since Muschamp was coach here 10 or 12 years ago when he had some of those great defensive players. And I think you've got to start getting those guys. I mean, like we talked earlier, you got to get those guys. When you start getting a couple of those guys, that's when you really know the potential for change is there. Or you, like I said, you mentioned earlier, you get veteran guys from other programs in the transfer portal, or you do it that way. So you got to do it one of 2 ways.
Trey says Spurrier had to finish top 2 in the BCS for a chance at a national championship. Kirby had to back in at the number 4 for one of his regardless, however he got it. We got fortunate to get in one of those as 2 because multiple things had to happen. Look, as much like I told you, I'm as Gator through and through, but I also respect what they have done there. It's hard to swallow. But folks, they're not going anywhere. That's the scary thing. It's very scary. I just lost my train of thought I had for you, Scott. Hopefully it'll come back. Let's look forward to Arkansas. They're wearing their black uniforms, blah, blah, blah. It's a game you win, you get bowl eligible. It's a team you should beat, in my opinion. I don't care how many close games Arkansas's had. I don't care about this, that, and the other. We've played well under Billy Napier at home. What do you think about this game?
Well, I'm like you. I think the Gators should win. I kind of expect them to win, but I also look at this game as a little. It's a tricky game. I mean, Arkansas recently, made the big change with Don Enos, offensive coordinator, so they're going to come in here maybe with a little different look than Florida has seen on film. They're a motivated team because it's been a tough season in Fayetteville. I mean, that was a program that some people would thought would contend for the SEC West, and things have not gone right. They have lost a lot of close games, and I'm never big a fan of these noon games. It's hard, man, to roll out of bed and go play football. That's just the reality of it. So there's a few things going there that kind of makes me raise my eyebrow a little bit. Like, okay, the Gators going to have to be really on point in this one. But you're right; they played well at home. I expect them to win, but I think it could be closer than probably they'd like.
Real quick before we get you out of here, two things on YouTube brought to you by Quality Plumbing. All About Blakely says, I understand that talent is an issue on lines of scrimmage, but why can't the corners cover? There are plenty of stars by their names. It's not just recruiting some of these guys, they aren't developing. Look, I agree to a point, but I can promise you can take the best cornerbacks in the world, which play on Sundays. If you cannot affect the quarterback, you cannot cover. It's just impossible. It turns into 7-on-7.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, a good football play is only meant to be so many seconds, and then, like you said, if you can't affect the quarterback, and then your quarterback has an extra time, well, that's going to make everybody's job on defense tougher. Having said that, is this Florida secondary? Do they rank up there with some of the best in school history? No. I mean, I think they could use some talent upgrade there, but I think they've got some future players. I like the two young safeties. But yeah, I mean, there was a lot of things going into what happened Saturday. I just think, again, you hit it on the head. They didn't really affect the quarterback at all and made Carson Beck's life pretty easy on Saturday.
All right, last text here on the Titan Mar text line. We'll get you out of here. It's very, very long. It's Bob in Fort Myers. He says, I blame this all on Jeremy Foley. If he would have put the money into the program and done everything, we wouldn't have fallen so far behind. So he keeps going on and on and on. We got to put more money into the football program. Alabama and Georgia could care less about the other sports. They throw all their money into football. I don't know if I agree with that, because Alabama's had some success in other sports. Georgia's had a little bit of success, but I do believe that that's all those two schools care about. Would you agree with that?
I mean, there is some truth that football is more, or at least probably, more important than what they look at the other sports. I mean, that was always Jeremy's thing about having a well-rounded athletic department. And, the good thing about that is it pays dividends a lot with, you get to see a guy like Ben Shelton play at the U.S. Open, or all these Olympians, and, Caleb Dressel winning gold in the Olympics. So I like the approach, but yes, there's no doubt that the Alabama, I mean, they've done things. They built a new baseball stadium recently. I think Georgia is doing some things maybe to their baseball stadium. So it is a different approach. But, look, I don't really think that has anything to do with anything we're talking about here, man. Jeremy Foley hasn't been athletic director for 7 years. That's 2 presidential cycles of U.S. presidents. So Georgia just hit the lottery with Kirby Smart. Alabama hit the lottery with Nick Saban. They were great coaches for their times. And unfortunately, we've had some false starts. And I would love to see, Billy Napier get this thing turned around and get Florida back in that conversation with Alabama and Georgia. I don't think 21 games into his tenure is enough time. It's going to take some time, but I think we'll find. Just wait until early December. That's when the early recruiting period or signing periods. I think that class will hopefully give us an indication of, what if we're heading in the right direction. So,
last thing just came up on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing. Do you know what site the uniforms will be sold on after the game? These black uniforms?
I would think FloridaGators.com, the Gator shop. They've been advertising, so if you go there and click the Gator
but
shop,
I think they're talking about, didn't Billy say that they were going to auction off like the actual game jerseys?
Oh, okay, yeah. I'll have to find out. I do not know that. I'll see if it's probably already on social media. And I just missed it.
Yeah.
I'll look
Okay.
for it.
Scott, good stuff as always, buddy. We appreciate your time. We'll see
All
you
right,
this week.
thanks, Shane.
That's Scott Carter. Join us on the Titan No More Hotline real quick. This day in sports brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. Put some star power to work in your financial life with Campus USA Credit Union. In 2016, the Oakland Raiders break the single game record for most penalties in an NFL game with 23 penalties, and they won the game over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's This Day in Sports brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. Appreciate everybody joining in. We can talk more about this tomorrow, folks. Have a great day. Take care.